and welcome into the Philly Friday Frenzy here right on the It's Rap Sports Network. I'm Big Al. I know I saw you earlier today when I filled in for Kyle Quinn on the Birds Blast with Maddie B, which is always a pleasure hanging out with Maddie B with all the positivity flowing. But number one, I want to welcome everybody in and thank you and for joining me on this cold, wet, snowy, icy Friday night, day after Christmas. I know everybody's probably just kind of chilling out, kind of on cruise control today. And if you had to work and all that, God bless you. But the rest of us, I know, was just trying to chill out and have a good day. So tonight we're going to talk Eagles, Bills, Eagles moving towards the playoffs as well. But we're going to talk a little Phillies. Obviously, this week especially, but in the last few days with Christmas, the Philly sports news, the Philly sports scene has been a little slower. I want to see how you did with your Christmas. Talk about, did you get what you wanted? Are you getting what you want on your Philly sports fandom Christmas list? Are certain people checking the list twice and delivering what you're hoping to get? Also, we're going to look at some of the blasts from the past, biggest Christmas gifts from the different. I'm 42 years old, so I always like to talk about me and my family members and friends. But always talk about around the holidays, the big things we got for Christmas, like what was the most memorable and all those kind of things. So we're going to talk about what you deemed the most memorable. We're going to talk about from the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, and the last 10 years. What were the biggest Christmas presents going along? So according to Google and all that stuff. So we'll talk about that. And we'll have some fun on this cold Friday evening if you're just hanging about. So if you're hanging about and you're hanging out with me, I thank you. But let's jump into it. Adam, what is going on, my friend? Good evening to you as well. Mickey, what's going on, my friend? And Rob, always good to talk to you guys. You guys are always jumping on the first in the pool with Big Al here. So again, I hope you guys all had a very Merry Christmas and soon to have a Happy New Year, which I will. The next time I talk to you will be the New Year. No, I'm sorry. I'll see you on Sunday morning, but after that, it'll be the New Year. Nina chiming. I got Maddie B with a bow on him. God bless you, Nina. My God. If you didn't get everything in your stocking and everything under the tree that you wish for, I don't know what you did wrong in a past life, but God bless you. I'm sure Maddie wrapped up a box full of happiness and positivity and delivered it under the tree. I mean, I in all honesty, I think Maddie has to be. He's probably one of those guys that you wouldn't know it because what we've seen him on the shows and all that stuff. But he's probably like a hopeless romantic. He probably sits there and watches the Christmas movies on Hallmark with you. I guarantee Maddie's a big softie. We don't see it. He doesn't allow us to show it to her. She's laughing at that remark. But no, I hope you and Maddie and the rest of the family had a happy Merry Christmas and all that stuff. So let's get into the conversation. We're going to talk Eagles. We're going to talk Bills. I knew it. See, guys, Nina is breaking it out here right now. She is saying it herself. Maddie B is a teddy bear and not the cold, unhappy Philly sports fan we think he is. But we're going to talk about Eagles Bills. What should they do? I did touch on this afternoon with Maddie. So if you missed it, you get to talk about today. If we didn't talk about it, I want to hear your thoughts, expand upon all those things. But I want to talk about what should the Eagles do, with the Bills game, how they should handle it, what your thoughts on that, and then moving forward, of course, towards the playoffs, because after that's one game against the lowly Commanders. It might have no seeding issues there, any conversation on that. And then, of course, the Phillies hot stove's kind of been a cold stove. But I do have one Christmas gift I'm still hoping maybe get a little later. Maybe a little later. My birthday's coming up, so maybe it'll be a birthday present for me. I think it's a long shot, but I'm going to tell you why I think it could be a real difference maker for your fighting Phils and maybe make you feel a little bit more confident going into the 2026 Philly season. So we'll get into all that. And like I said, of course, we're going to look into the big presents of 2025 for both men and women. And we're going to also look at the last decade's worth of Christmas stuff. So we'll break it up a little bit. And I want to hear how you guys did on Christmas and how, what you bought for your significant others and your family members and all that stuff. So we'll talk about all that. But let's talk. The big news is, of course, the Eagles play Sunday 4/25 against the the Buffalo Bills, the Josh Allen led Buffalo Bills. I'm going to talk about the keys to the game or the matchups and all that stuff, which I did touch on again earlier today on the Birds Blast, but I'm going to go a little further, a little deeper with you in it. As we know right now that Lane Johnson and Nakobe Dean have both been ruled out of the game, which I'm happy with. Maybe you're not, maybe you are, maybe you don't care one way or the other, but I'm happy with. Health is everything. Health is what you need. Like, healthier teams are one of the big keys of moving forward. And Lane Johnson's not a guy worried about rust. His position, as much as I'm not worried about rust. Nakobe's, he could be a difference maker on the field. It's just health, health, health. I mean, that's going to be the story of that man's career, is staying healthy. And if he could just stay healthy for a full season, God knows what we get. We've seen him at the small snippet we got this year, and there's times he was just like a bullet coming out into the just destroying quarterback. So it'd be interesting to see how he plays out future wise. But with him and both, and Adam's jumping in here as I'm saying it, Lane both out, and Jahad Campbell's been doing a decent job taking his position, especially for a rookie. But the other one is Jalen Carter. Does he play? Should he play? I mean, if I had to choose, I'd probably want him to play a little bit more for the speed of the game to get, if he feels healthy enough to do it. That's the key thing, is if you feel healthy enough to do it. This Bills game means a lot, and I said earlier, and I'll repeat myself, where I said I want them to go out and play this game as they would. I don't want them to hold back. I don't want them to play safe. You really can't play safe in sports, especially in football. If you do that, I feel like you end up hurting yourself more. So it also could be kind of a momentum killer in that sense. I think that could be worse off than a straight loss, to be honest with you. And this could be an Eagles loss. I mean, I said it earlier. I think it could be a tight game. I think the Eagles will lose. I mean, again, I think the Bills have a little bit more running on this game. I think in the sense of seedings, their division still up for grabs. The Patriots are one game ahead of them right now, are playing the Jets, which is pretty much a guaranteed win at this point, because if they are not tanking, I don't know what they should be doing. So if they want any fight for that for the division spot, they definitely need to win against the Eagles. It's one of the last two games at Orchard, or regular season games at Orchard Park right now. And they kind of had a weak showing against the Cleveland Browns recently, and they've been known as a second half team. And as we said earlier, the Eagles are a first half team. So let's see if they're their yin to yang. And I'm not sitting there saying it's a foregone conclusion that the Bills win, but it's going to be a close game. But I think the Bills will squeak it out. That's my personal opinion. Carter and Dean and Johnson should definitely be out. Rob, I agree with you. I just don't see a plus side to having any one of these guys playing. Unless they are 100% healthy. That's, I guess, the best way to put it. Unless they are 100% healthy, that is the only reason I would want to see them play. And also, congratulations to the It's Rap Sports Network and all you guys who've been subscribing. So if you haven't done it yet, subscribe. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is, all of it, if you can. Just hit the 200 marker for the It's Rap Sports Network, and hopefully more to come. So, but again, being healthy and being hot at the right time, and that was something that me and Matty B battled with this afternoon. He didn't see any positives coming from the game. I know, shocked against the Commanders, but I kind of did. I mean, especially in that second half, they came out from it to a cold start. I will 100% agree with that. But they also came out to the second half under center more, spread offense was played, some design runs for Jalen, just things that we've all been clamoring for that we finally saw. So, I mean, in my eyes, that's a big plus. And, of course, the running game from Saquon and Tank Bigsby. A nice 1-2 punch that hopefully they can build off of. And I want to go over that right now as we talk about the keys of the game right now. As I said, Sunday the 28th, the Eagles and the Bills will show down at Highmark Stadium at 4:25, which we all kind of saw this game on the calendar, kind of sandwiched in between two. At first, what we thought in the beginning of the season were going to be two really highly contested Eagles Commanders games. Like, we thought going into this season that this was kind of a gauntlet at the end of the season. The Commanders were expected to be a heavy hitter this year after the season that they had last year. Who would have thought? Who would have thought the Commanders would have had more of a down year this year? And I mean, it was way down. I mean, injuries were no help. On top of the fact is people got film on this team. People got film on this team, and when you go from 0 to 60 pretty quickly, it's hard to stay at 60 the whole time, right? So, I mean, that's how I look at things. When you have quick success and you just don't get exactly what you wanted, it's hard to come back and just repeat it next year. And the Commanders found out about that. I mean, teams like Detroit, lost some coordinators, and they saw what that's like. I mean, you have to give this team credit. They've overcome a lot of these things that other teams have not. So I know I got blasted and yelled at today about who cares what other teams do, but what do good teams do? They do things better than other teams, and so far the Eagles, for the most part, from those kind of situations, have done that. Now, let's look at this matchup. And I said a big matchup is going to be the run game versus the run defense. And this is a big metric here. The rushing offense for the Eagles, as of right now, is 22nd overall, which is nothing to write home about, where the Bills are second overall against, again, now a rushing defense for the Eagles, who are 21st overall. And the Bills are almost dead last at 31 overall. So this is going to be an interesting, and the weather, let's be honest, the weather is going to play a bit of a factor in this game. And those numbers right there tell you a lot. Now, the run offense for the Eagles, if you probably look in the last couple weeks, has definitely gone up now. Granted, it's against some piss poor teams in the Raiders and the Commanders. Commanders on top of having multiple injuries. But that's going to be a big one. Probably the most significant mismatch with the Bills and the Eagles defense ranking near the bottom in that situation and then the top. Now, Saquon and then Jalen on top of it kind of falls in that running game. If he can, those design run plays, all that kind of stuff can play a huge factor in this game. Again, weather overall, it's supposed to be cold and rainy and snowy up there, just like we are dealing with here in the Philadelphia area. If you're not around here, I know, Mickey, you're not in the area, but it is a snowy, freezing rain, sleet mixture. You can hear it clinking on the glass out there. So I'm guessing that's what they're going to get. Maybe probably a little heavier in Buffalo, which it tends to be. But that, to me, is one of the biggest mismatches going into this game, and could and to Matty's credit, and I agree with him to a point, could help at least build a confidence for the Eagles if they can overcome Cooks and all them and the rushing offense of the Bills, and also the offensive line able to allow Saquon to run like he did. He ran like a madman possessed against the Commanders, and again, it's against the Commanders, but these are things that you have to do to feel right, to get right, to you have to taste the win, taste the results. Because sometimes when you're winning and you're limping in and think, but things are still not going right, you can't. It's not easy to repeat when you don't taste it. I'm changing my prediction from this afternoon. 31-28. Is that an Eagles win? 31-28, Rob? I don't know if it's going to be that high scoring, to be honest with you. The overall defense for the Eagles is 8th right now, opponents of yards per play, and the overall defense for the Bills is 21st. But the weather, I still think is going to play a bit of a factor. So I don't know if it's going to be that high, but it's going to be a close game, no matter what. 31-28. And I'm not going to tell you if you're right or wrong if you're picking the Bills, if you're picking the Eagles to win, because it's going to be it's that kind of game. And it was kind of, like I said, it was slated to be that game, and a really tough game sandwiched in between two tough divisional games. Now, things changed, and then they turned this last month into kind of I want to say give me. I mean, the Chargers game they should have won. They blew that big time on their own. But then the Raiders, and then the Chiefs, the Commanders, down the Bills, and then the Commanders again, which is most likely going to be second and third string player. I mean, I don't even know if Tanner McKee starts against the Commanders. I think it might maybe make a good storyline letting Sam Howell start for the Eagles against the Commanders. That'd be a heck of a storyline right there that the NFL may want to see. Turning some garbage into gold and what that game would actually be. So here's another one. The Bills pass offense versus the Eagles pass defense. Here's another one. Bills have a potent pass offense. We've talked about this. Josh Allen is an MVP candidate. He can put up the stats. He can put up the numbers. I discussed about the it factor overall. During the regular season, he usually has it. He always just seems to kind of buckle in the postseason. Now with no why am I completely blank? Patrick Mahomes in his way, man, maybe things will be different. We don't know. But right now, you got a potent offense, passing offense for the Bills, and Josh Allen as playing like an MVP. But the Eagles have an elite pass defense, ranked fourth in opponent's yards per pass attempt. And their key, possible key return of Jalen Carter could be huge up front. If they can cause pressure and cause critical turnovers, this could really turn the tides for the Eagles against the Bills. You're going to the bank on that 12-5, huh? They're going to win the next two. I mean, the last game's such a crapshoot, Rob. It really is. I mean, I can see the Commanders blowing it just because they don't want a meaningless win and hurts them positionally in the draft. But they also are players who want to win and go out on top, trying to play for a team, play for a contract and a job next year. So there's a lot of different nuances to that. But I don't. No matter what, I think the Eagles. I think this is Jalen Hurts and all the starters' last game of this regular season into the postseason. 24-21, Eagles win on the Jake Elliott field goal. Jake Elliott, we're going to talk about. I want to know, are you worried? Do you think this is going to be like last year? Jake Elliott kind of struggled a little bit and then came into the postseason and was the Jake Elliott we knew and loved. Are you worried about Jake Elliott and the special teams overall moving forward for the Eagles? Yeah, Rob saying yes. I'm guessing you're saying yes. You think this is 2 more wins? And you could be absolutely right. And I think this would be a real coup for the team. I mean, 12-5 is probably what most of this fan base legitimately had them having around 12, 5 losses, 6 losses overall. Maybe not the ones that they received against the Chargers. I don't think I had them losing that one. And if this Eagles team was playing as good as we knew they could, they don't play. Jalen Hurts doesn't throw 5 turns. I mean, the Chargers, Matty B said, "Oh, the one-handed man beat us," but 5 turnovers and we still had a chance to win it. So I think the Chargers did not win that game. The Eagles lost that game. But that's a big one. Eagles defense line gets that pressure and makes Josh Allen make those critical turnovers like we know he can when the pressure's in his face. And we've even seen Jalen Carter track down a couple of years ago Josh Allen for a sack. So, it'll be interesting. So the other one's going to be the big conversation. Jalen Hurts versus Josh Allen. That's going to be the big one everybody wants to talk about. Jalen Hurts versus Josh Allen, right? First part, I've never believed this quarterback versus quarterback thing. Maybe clutchness, who's going to be clutch when it's most needed. Maybe who knows who's going to have to be clutch. Maybe one team runs away with it, and that quarterback doesn't have to be clutch. We don't know, but 2 of the league's top dual threat quarterbacks, which even though Matty B doesn't want to put him up towards that elite status, I think he's drunk. I think a little too much eggnog in that man this holiday season to think that. I know he's not Josh Allen in the sense that where he's flashy, 5 touchdowns, 400+ yard games. I get that. That's just not his style. But he wins when winning's most important. Josh Allen would give up all his flashy stats, his MVP stats for 2 Super Bowl appearances and 1 win. And if he wouldn't, then he's drunk and he deserves to be where he's at. Just being honest. And that's why, he goes, he asked me the question, and I'll ask you guys the same question he asked me, and I'll let you guys answer. If they cleared the slate of the NFL and Eagles got the first overall pick and they were going to pick their quarterback first and they had the pick of the litter of all the quarterbacks, available in the league currently, who do you choose? Is Jalen Hurts your number one guy? Maybe, maybe not. But I don't think he's not top 5 picked easily, probably top 3. I think Patrick Mahomes, if he's healthy, is number 1 in anybody's book, most likely. I mean, like him or lump him, you got to give the guy credit for credit's due. He has that ability to make guys even better. Josh Allen is really good, but he doesn't get over the hump. He doesn't have the it factor. And when I'm looking at guys, I need guys who know who can win and want the ball at those moments. And, looking at the guys currently in the playoffs, I mean, got a couple of young guys, Drake May, Bo Nix, Caleb Williams, who haven't had much postseason anything, let alone success, to really know if I want to have them. Maybe they are the next big thing, and this year it could be an illusion. We don't know, but how you can choose anybody else over them right now or choose them over Jalen Hurts, Matty B, is drunk. You have to be drunk. An elite quarterback is not stats alone. It's the it factor. It's the ability to win when the time calls upon you. And there's certain guys who just don't, who can't. Adam's saying, you think if Josh Allen was on the Eagles, we would have won? We have won with the team we have now. Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm not drunk in the sense that Josh Allen isn't a good quarterback, but does he slay Patrick Mahomes on the Eagles? I don't know. I can't say that with a definite. He's had some really good teams. He's had some really good offensive lines. He's had some really good defenses. He's had some really good running backs and wide receiver guys, wide receiver cores up until the last year or so. And he still couldn't get it done then. He just always seemed he couldn't get over the hump. So for me to say the same thing now, if you put him in as a, say Jalen Hurts couldn't play in the Super Bowl and you're able to pick a quarterback, if you put Josh Allen against Patrick Mahomes, but our defense played the way they did in the Super Bowl, I think he can. You really didn't have to do too much in that game to win it. But I don't know. He's had some really good teams around him. So to say otherwise, it's kind of mind-boggling. He even said he picked Trevor Lawrence over him, which is the most laughable thing right now. Yeah, the Jaguars are 11-4 and all that stuff. They're probably one of the weakest divisions right now. I'm trying to think. They're playing who are they playing this week? They're playing Indy, who, they lost Danny Dimes. Houston has just come on at the end there. And I don't know. It's just I think way overrated. Caleb Williams a little overrated. Could Sam Darnold get over his ghost issue? We don't know. Is Brock Purdy, this great quarterback that people say he can be? I think Justin Herbert has a lot to prove in the winning column as well. Again, flashy, but doesn't win. And Matt Stafford's too old to want to build a team around, but he can win when time calls upon it. And Jordan Love, again, another guy feels a little overrated. Kind of got a moniker and deemed for having a good half a season, and then got shellacked in the postseason. They shellacked the Dallas Cowboys, and then they got shellacked by the 49ers. So, in my mind, like going by with the quarterbacks right now, if he's not your top 3 in your top 3 discussion, you're drunk. You're absolutely drunk. Hurts is definitely an elite quarterback. Rob, I agree, man. It's again, everybody's it's a fantasy football time frame where it's stats. The biggest stats is Super Bowl wins. Like, you can put up all the stat pads, the stat graphics, and we'll go over some of them. And side by side comparisons. They did one of Mariota's career to Jalen Hurts' career, and it was very close, except for postseason success. Correct? And where does it all matter? In Matty B's words, where does it matter the most? Winning championships, not winning regular seasons, not winning playoff games, but winning championships. Right? So, let's look at it right now. Who in the playoffs right now? Now, Patrick Mahomes isn't in, of course, because his team had just was hot garbage right now, and then they got his injuries, of course, sent him backwards. But look at the rest of the NFL. What team has a elite quarterback? Maybe if you want to make a conversation for Joe Burrow and the Bengals. But other than that, like really, who? Like, you could tell me all you want about Dak Prescott. He's another one, flashy stats, but can't win when the time comes. And that's it. That's it. Danny Dimes kind of emerged this year, but we'll see. Can he do it next year? Lamar Jackson is a joke. Sorry, total joke. But I mean, I'm looking at the league right now. I'm looking at the entire NFL. Outside of, like I said, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, there's not many other guys I would want to put as my quarterback. And you're crazy if you think otherwise. Ricky, what's going on, buddy? Go Phillies. Yeah, I've got my little Phillies Santa hat on. We're going to talk a little Phillies because I said I was going to have a little fun conversation with you guys tonight. I want to talk about the big Christmas gifts of the last 40 years, because I'm 42, and I want to talk about them and see if any of you have lived through them, got those things, and or forgot they even existed, whatever. We're going to talk about that. But we're also going to look at the Philly sports fans top 10 gifts of 2025. Sorry if some things are spelled wrong, but yeah, whatever. My bad on that. Let's go backwards. Flyers gloves, believe it or not, Flyers gloves. Not just Phillies, or Eagles, but Flyers gloves was 10 on the list. Tailgating gear was number 9, which I think is lower than I would have put that there, to be honest with you. I would have thought, or not number 9, number 8. I forgot this is only 4. I had to mesh them together because even though I said 10, the gear, some of the things got meshed together because a cooler and tumbler being there. It's a Philly thing was like signs that say that or T-shirts, anything that says it's a Philly thing was apparently a very big seller this year. And by the way, while I'm talking this, please comment in. Did you get any Philly sports memorabilia, any Philly sports jerseys or hats, tickets, whatever, under your Christmas tree or in your stocking? Did you receive any Philly sports items, or did you give any? That'd be also something to talk about. The coolers and the tumblers were a big one, but they're expensive. I can see why they're a little lower on the list. They're really expensive, especially the good ones. Like you can get some cheap ones. Some of the ones that are like people make like on Etsy and stuff. So they can be a little bit more expensive, but or a little less expensive. But the coolers and tumblers, that's a big thing. Replica trophies. I would have thought that was lower on the list, but that was higher up on the list. Hats. It was hats, and they had hats like in woolly hats. I just left it at hats, but whatever. But I'm a big hats guy. Got a huge Philly sports hats collection to the dismay of my wife, who is tired of looking in my closet, just strewn across the top. Number 2 were tickets, and number 3 were it should have been jerseys. Sorry, AI sometimes gets me on the graphical parts of things. I didn't check it, but yeah, the jerseys. Jerseys were the big one, and that I make sense. No Christmas presents. Oh, come on, Rob. Nobody got you anything? I wish I knew that. I would have sent you something, brother. But yeah, no, it's that is the top Christmas gifts for your Philly sports fans this year. I didn't know it's a Philly thing was such a big option, but apparently it was high up there. The tailgating gear, I probably would have put it. I would have probably moved everything up. I would probably move it's a Philly thing back to where the Eagles tailgating gear was, because in my eyes, the coolers and tumblers, I guess, are close to the same thing as gear, and I probably would have put the replica trophies back to like right next to it's a Philly thing. So, that is your current 2025 Philadelphia sports fans Christmas gets this holiday season. You know what I mean? And speaking of more Christmas presents, here's some presents for you. There's plenty of stuff still to go on, especially on Sunday. What a day. What a day. You got the last, after tonight, you got the last post game for the Happy Valley Huddle with Mikey Lauro with Penn State versus Clemson. And then Sunday, it's 9 a.m. with me and him, Philly AM, the pregame show for Steel City Sunday for you Pittsburgh fans. Steel City Sunday postgame, Eagles Bills postgame, final word with Matty B at 9, followed by a late night West Coast trip Flyers postgame, Flyers and the Kraken, and I believe that's Mikey on Sunday. So a lot going on with your Clear the Ice. Don't forget Mikey Laro Tuesdays at 8 for the props, locks, and parlays. The final word Sunday through Thursday, PM and the AM on Sundays. There's your post-game show. Kyle Quinn and Matty B with the Birds Blast. And, of course, the Steel City guys, Gridiron Weekly, Philly Sports or Pittsburgh Sports Desk, and Pittsburgh Sports Tonight. So they have a lot of things going on. So if you have nothing to watch, that's clearly your problem. What's this? Wife passed away last year. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Rob. I did not know that. Condolences, my friend. And my family lives in Pennsylvania and South Jersey, and I'm in Dover. Oh, you're down in Dover. Okay, I had family. My uncle for many years ran a restaurant right off the Air Force base called BG's. But that was years and years ago. We used to spend Easter down there. But I'm sorry that you couldn't get to with your family this holiday season. You know, it's a bit of a haul for you. I mean, just even in South Jersey or southeastern Pennsylvania, I mean that's what an hour and a half ride at least, bare minimum. Yeah, I mean I that's tough, man. I didn't know that. But so back to the Philly sports talk. So one of the things I would kind of hoping that the Phillies will do something. It's really a hard. It's a high wish. It's a highly doubtful wish to be granted. For the Phillies, they're trying to make moves, unload some guys, but obviously the Castellanos thing has been such a cold conversation. He's even out campaigning for himself because they don't want him back. Whatever him and Rob Thompson problem was, they're not going to be able to fix that. So they might just have to take a loss on him. Obviously, I think Alec Boehm, I don't think it's like a problem with him and Rob Thompson, but I also think the team is kind of over his baby crap and they're tired of his inconsistencies and they just want to figure they could get some value for him, kind of like they did with Strom, unload him, get some money off the books and make moves somewhere else. But it's there's no market right now and they don't have a lot of wiggle room, and the JT Realmuto conversation has kind of stalled, and I don't know if it's the kind of money or the years. I'm gonna guess it's more the years than anything. And I listen, as the biggest JT fan, and wanting him to be re-signing, saying how important it is to re-sign him. At the same time, if it's not fiscal, it's got to be reasonable somewhere. And if he's just out, just overpricing himself in the market, which he is probably the top catcher out there right now, even at his age. If you're a team who's just like a good defensive and catcher away, and a guy with a little offensive production, you'll be willing to pay JT that kind of money. Somebody else would be, especially have the opening for it. And we were all hoping for a big move in the Schwarber $30 million a year, 5-year deal. That was a big one. JT should be back, Rob. He should be. I really hope, and I'm still holding out that they can come out with meet somewhere in the middle. But at the same time, for everybody who wants moves to be made, if you sign JT, what other moves are going to be made? I mean, the bullpen seems to be kind of coming into form at this point. Maybe they make some more smaller moves. The starting pitching overall, I think, has come into form. There's still some questions with Andrew Painter, the health of Zach Wheeler. Is Ranger gone? I think Ranger's gone. I don't think they're going to be able to afford him, let alone him and JT. But signing Garcia, putting a lot of eggs in the Justin Crawford basket, and they don't want to move on from their top 10 prospects, or especially their top three in Aiden Miller and Justin Crawford and Andrew Painter, two of those guys who look like they're going to be starting the season with the Eagles. And it's going to be their job to lose. And I think part of the Andrew Painter not wanting to move on from him is he didn't have he had a little bit lackluster return after Tommy John, and teams are probably not going to be willing to pay the kind of money for Andrew Painter that if the Phillies were going to move on from him, would be willing to look to get, or the return. So do they go in Ranconis or Arun Escobar, or who was the guy, Gage Wood? You know, are they willing to move on for those guys and see if they can package something up and get something done? But they would have to clean out most of their top 10 prospects to do so. And if they're not going to touch the top three, that 4 through 7 is going to be gone to get one decent player. But JT should be back. But I really think JT's holding out for the money and the years. And I don't think the Phillies can, or I don't want to say should, but maybe, I don't know. If he's outpricing himself, he might be making it easier for them to say no to him. I don't want him gone. That's for sure. I'm a huge JT fan. And I keep saying a guy like Andrew Painter, having JT behind the plate can be really important for him. Having a guy, Christopher Sanchez, we know what his numbers are with JT behind the plate versus other people. Listen, the Phillies have backed themselves into a real tight corner financially with the Bryce Harper contracts, the Trey Turner contract, now the Kyle Schwarber. Now I got 3 guys locked up for what, $60-some million or $60 million-ish, whatever it is. That's you're kind of locked now. I got $60 million locked up between 3 dudes. And then don't forget, you add in Zach Wheeler. That's another, $25 million. So I'm here to $85 million. That's 4 guys. Christopher Sanchez, if you handful of him more somehow, pull that out of their hat. How you get a guy who's elite number 1 pitcher status getting paid peanuts? That'd be tough. Happy holidays. Hey, Joey, happy holidays. Joe Hale, everybody. Happy holidays to you. But I have a bit of a Christmas wish list that I think it's an absolute long shot for the Phillies to do. And if they pull this out off, it means they sold the farm, or they moved on from like an Aiden Miller that they weren't willing to want to. But if they were to make any big changes, they're going to have to. They're going to have to move on from somebody that they don't want to. But Bo Bichette is the kind of guy who, in my mind, can be a difference maker. Bo Bichette could fix a lot of things on the Phillies. He could definitely be that number 2 hitter. He had a strong 2025. 311, 181 hits, 18 home runs, 94 RBIs in 139 games. Doesn't have the power hit. He does the right. He could play second. Could you move a guy like Bryson Stott to third and then trade Alec Boehm? Move on from him. Open up some space for him. But again, it's going to cost you, what's he, like 28, I think? It's going to cost you to move on from him. And they're going to need the money to do it. And they would have to make the trades to do it. On top of it, even though he's a free agent, they would have to make a lot of trades and try to open up the cap space. So if you could move on from $20 million, and then what is it, $10 million? So about $30 million. I think Bo Bichette could be the guy who makes the overall big difference for the Phillies. And I know you're like, well, we only have more problems, more holes to fill in in other areas. Yeah. Um but I think he's young. He's the kind of hitter and player we want. If you get him going and then maybe Garcia back to some sort of pre 2023 and before form, and Harper's can do what Harper does, Schwarber can do what Schwarber does, and Trey can do what Trey does. The Phillies are a different team at that point. So do the Phillies make the right moves? Do the Phillies have any bargaining chips at all? Again, that's a big wish, and I don't think it happens. I really don't. I'm not drunk over here talking to you about things that could happen, but I do think JT. I'm feeling less and less certain that JT is coming back. I could have told you I felt almost certain. I could have told you I could have felt 50-50. But if JT don't come back and you can get another guy on the cheap, and that doesn't, you're not gonna have the same defensive, but you're also not taking a giant dive. I'm not saying that go to the guy's just a giant dive. But if you could save money there, unload Alec Boehm, and somehow unload Nick Castellanos, could the Phillies afford and get a Bo Bichette? And maybe if you're moving on from him, you'll be willing to trade Aiden Miller a little bit more, or moving to him, you'll be able to trade Aiden Miller more. And I know Miller needs to play, blah, blah, but he's a prospect. We don't know what he's got yet. And I'm not sitting there saying he can. And I know we need to get younger, and I'm 100% agree. But Bo Bichette's that ripe age. He is young. Like, he is a young guy, and he can. But I think he could be that difference maker. He's that kind of player. He's the kind of hitter we want. Tommy wouldn't juice this team up. There's a lot of pluses to Bo Bichette, except he's going to command some money. I mean, let's see. I'm going to look right now. What is Bo Bichette projected contract? He's 27 years old, 150 to 200 million over the next 5 to 8 years. So that's annual 25 to 26 million. I would do 25 million a year for 6 years. I mean, he's only 33 at that point. If JT don't come back, I see the Phillies trying to trade for Rushman from the Orioles. I could see that. Orioles, man, they're making moves. They're making moves. So, maybe they can do something here, but they'd be willing to make some moves and something and make some splashes, more splashes, I should say. But if we can get him for 25 million a year, and maybe, would you be willing to pay 7 or 8 years at 25 million a year? I mean, then that way he's we say he's 27, so he's 34, 35 years old. That would be interesting. Sports Track has him at estimated a 10-year value of 260 million. 10 years, 260 million. And then ESPN has him at 5 years, but 130 million. So at 5 years, he could be 32 and get another, kind of, if he plays well, another contract somewhere else, or even with the Phillies if he signed with them. Some analysts, some offbeat analysts have him at 212 to 216 million contract. I don't know about that. That seems a little high, but I would take him at a 7-year contract. I would. I know we've given out enough of those, but you kind of, again, you back yourself in the corner. Aiden Miller's not going to be ready to play this year. I don't think he plays this year. I think it's another Justin Crawford for last year. Oh, he'll be here. I was one of those guys. I thought he was going to be up here by the All-Star break at the latest. I really did. I thought Justin Crawford was going to get some time to play, and he didn't. And Justin Crawford isn't a guarantee. He just really isn't, and no prospect is. But I mean, we don't know what we have. We don't. So if he's going to be your center fielder, Garcia at right, I guess they're going to platoon left a little bit. Harper at first. You move Bryson over to third. Trey and Bo Bichette at second and short. And then, maybe Marshawn starting. I mean, I would feel okay with Marshawn as long as not Stubbs is the main catcher. That would bother me a little bit, but they could go get one of the other catchers on the market. Again, they're not going to be JT, at least as good as JT in some ways. I think JT still has a little bit left in his tank, and I wouldn't mind signing him for 3 years, $12 to $15 million. But if it's more than that, it's going to make it real difficult to jump on the JT train. And at this point, if things are stalled out this way, and if it was that easy, I think it would have happened. In January of you have time or on your show, can you possibly do the phone lines like Matty B does it? I will. I told Matty B I will. I'm actually gonna have some guests on too. Some guys that maybe some of you recognize from the past. I'm gonna try to get some decent interviews. Just trying to build the show up a little bit before I do that. But I will at one point open up the phone lines. I'm going to probably wait closer to the end of January, and I'll tell you why. My plan is to build it up again, like I said, and also get a little closer to the Super Bowl, no matter what the Eagles or not, depending on what's going on. Kind of want to get your guys' view, 40,000-foot view. But, Joe, I that is a plan. And actually, I might even have a phone line for you to call into. I'm working on that, too. That's the other thing. I'm trying to have a way where you actually call a phone number. So for those who don't want to come on the camera, or for those who maybe don't have the equipment to jump on and do it this way, that way I can pick up the phone and answer the phone and talk to you this way, and people can hear you, and we could do it that way. So we will try that. There might be a possibility to try that as well with like a Google phone number. So we'll talk about all that down the line. I've been talking to Matty B about making that happen for you as well. But Joe, I do love the participations from you and everybody else. So I thank you for that as well. But yeah, as I was mentioning, the only reason I say Bo Bichette, because I think if you're gonna have a guy and you're gonna, for lack of better words, push all the chips in, I think Bo Bichette's the guy who's worth doing it. He's young enough. He's got the abilities. I think he can really juice this team up. And maybe the young guys can learn from him as well. And then a lineup with let me try to say, let's see, let me just see something. I want to see where he had he would lead off, and he was a 2 and a 3 hitter in the batting order a lot of times for the Blue Jays. So Trey Turner, Bo Bichette, Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber doesn't suck. Not against that at all. That actually is a really huge 4-man lineup. Now, is it who's 6 and 7, or I'm sorry, 5, 6, and 7 in that lineup? So probably like Brandon Marsh. Maybe I don't love him at 5, but I'm just trying to think who else would be in there. Bryson Stott would probably be like 7. Justin Crawford maybe 8 or 9. Oh, Garcia. Garcia would probably be number 5. So him at number 5, Brandon at number 6. Whoever's catching, if JT was still on the team somehow, then it would be Garcia, him, JT 6, Brandon 7, and then Crawford Stott, then Crawford, unless they start turning things around. Thoughts on signing Garcia? I like the signing. I just What I don't like about it, Joe, to be honest with you, is one of those other reach contracts. Like, here's a guy that has upside to him, but he's had some down year or two, and they're hoping a change of scenery and being able to work to him, they can get him back to somewhere close to his 2023 and before form, before his injury, before his last year when they outright just got rid of him. That's a big if. I mean, we know he has the abilities. We know he has the talent. You know, can he get rejuvenated? He's going to be coming to a Phillies, the Philadelphia team that I don't know if you get away with that here. I mean, this fan base, me included, wants a World Series bad. Bryce Harper needs a World Series bad because he's leaning towards being a bust. Because if you don't win a World Series during his contract term, it's a bust. I mean, I know he's pretty much probably a first ballot Hall of Famer no matter what. But if we don't win a playoff or we don't win a World Series with him, it's a bust. Now you sign Kyle Schwarber and all that money they're making, they need to win. Zach Wheeler is going to want his World Series, and his window is probably going to be a couple of years now. Could be even smaller now with his injury. So that's what I don't love about the Garcia signing. I think Garcia's a really good player, and I love the addition of Garcia to the team, especially if he was like, maybe, like I said, 6, 7, 8, 9, bottom of the lineup, and we can get some get better production than he's had. Doesn't have to be his full 2023 and before form, but close. That's a huge coup. But that's it. It to me, that's like what they did with a lot of the bullpen last year. And it does. I mean, you need players like that at times. But you can't truly rely on it the whole time, and that's a problem. I think the Phillies have backed themselves in such a corner. That's what they kind of have to do. I love the arm of Garcia. Yeah, no, listen, there's a lot to defensively. I don't think he's an issue. I really don't think he's an issue defensively. I'm more worried about Crawford. Can he handle the bigs? He hasn't done it yet. Can he hit in the bigs? Can he play defense in the bigs? We don't know yet. But defensively, he's not a problem. I'm not worried about there. But can he get to a form where he's a solid 5? I'd be happy with that. I don't think he overpaid for him. He's a solid 5-hole hitter, and he's got his really good defense out there. That could be the difference maker there. Really can be. So I hope that answers your question, Joe Hale. But like I said to you guys earlier, since there's a little slowness in the Philly sports news this week, and we did talk a lot about the Eagles and the Bills in the first half. I do want to, I was telling you about some of the top gadgets and gifts for men and women this 2025. Before I get into that, I want to talk to you about, like I said earlier, I am 42 years old. I'll be 43 in 1 week. No, week from Sunday, 4th of January. So me and my buddies talked about, the big things that we got. Like, I still am a big Ghostbusters nerd, love Ghostbusters. And, I remember getting the Ghostbusters Firehouse and a lot of the toys, Ninja Turtles, a lot of the toys there. Those were, we talked about that. A young man. Yeah. I don't always feel that way. I don't know the salt and pepper in the beer to give me that, but Rob, I appreciate you for saying those things. Yes, Rob, you're still a great man. You're wise beyond your years, my friend. But we were talking about, and I kind of broke it down the decade. So I kind of Googled and found a list and saw about by the decade from 83 to 89. They call that the toy boom era. So it was big on toys because back then, TV shows were made because of toys a lot of times. The Ninja Turtles were a comic book, a one and done comic book. It wasn't like a stream of comic books. And I don't know, it was Hasbro or one of the Kenner or whatever bought the comic book. They bought the rights to them, changed up the type of characters they were a little bit, and made a kids cartoon that was made to sell toys, and it did. It was a boom. It was when Ghostbusters kind of dropped off, Ninja Turtles came in, and they were they were huge. But that was more, I think, the '90s. So in 1980 to '83, the big toys were the Nintendo Entertainment System, which we all know. Big video game nerd. I still wish I had my NES. I still play some of the old games. Me and the boys sit down and play anything from Mario Brothers. Punch Out's a big one for us. Tecmo Bowl's always a big one. So NES games are still big with my family. For the girls, Cabbage Patch Kids, they were huge. I mean, I remember my dad telling me the money and the stuff that he had to go through to go get a Cabbage Patch Kid back in the day. Transformers, there's another one. The toy line was made, and then the cartoon was made to sell the toy line. I mean, that's what cartoons were. Saturday morning cartoons were 30-minute long commercials back in the day. That's what they were. G.I. Joe, all that kind of stuff. But one of the big ones during that time frame was Transformers. Another one, Care Bears. That was a big one. I remember my sisters had Care Bears. My Little Pony, it's another one my sisters had. And the Rubik's Cube. I don't know why I thought the Rubik's Cube was before the 80s, but I didn't know that Rubik's Cube was one of the big toys people got back then. Now, we moved to the 90s, which they refer to as the gadgets and more pop culture. So they got away a lot from the Saturday morning cartoons as much to sell toy lines. Even Ghostbusters tried to how do I put this? Rejuvenate itself with another new version of Ghostbusters cartoon that came out in the mid 90s or late 90s, like 97 or something. And there was all to sell toys, but I don't think it sold. It didn't last more than a season. And that's kind of how it was based. It's based on sales of the merchandise. If the merchandise isn't selling, I mean, Disney still does that today with all the Marvel stuff. You know, any kid you see Spider-Man T-shirts and pajamas and all that stuff. That's why they do it. I mean, they make more money on merchandise than they do on the millions of dollars they sell, and even billions of dollars on the movies. That's a big part of it, but it's the merch that sells. 90s again. The big sell was the Game Boy, which was the first handheld, not the first, but the biggest in one of the biggest sellers, still of all time, one of the top ones. Was the Game Boy from Nintendo. As I said earlier, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, big seller throughout the 90s. Beanie Babies, we all remember Beanie Baby craze. People getting trips to France for Beanie Babies. Tickle Me Elmo, that was another big one, like Beanie Babies, a big boom. Like now, my mother still has bags of like zipper bags full of Beanie Babies because she was a collector. She thought it was going to make worth a lot of money. The PlayStation in the late 90s, that was the video game revolution there, and that led into the 2000s. And remember the Tamagotchi. Do you guys remember the Tamagotchis? Which are like, I call them video games on your keychains. It was funny in the sense that you had to nurture this digital keychain character, this animal, this Tamagotchi. And if you didn't feed it, if you didn't take care of it, it died. You're going to reset and do it all over again. Which it's funny how video games, even this day and age, have gotten into like, I mean, I remember the Wii, and we'll get into that, I'm sure, at one point. The Wii was a big system, and a lot of the games for the Wii was like, oh, it's called digital clean your room, virtual clean your room. I'm like, why don't my kids don't clean their room, but they'll clean their room for a video game? That makes no sense. I remember the He-Man action figures. Yeah, that was another one. He-Man was a big one. Now Ghostbusters, the movie, was a big thing, but they turned it into cartoon and made all that money. But He-Man was more of a, I think it was the toys came first, if I remember correctly. But I did have some He-Man action figures. And then, like I said, Tickle Me Elmo was the other one. So that was the 90s, more pop culture-y, more gadgety, getting towards that. And then in the 2000s, it's all tech. I mean, it's a lot of tech stuff. 2000 to 2009, PlayStation 2 was a big one. I remember that was one of my favorites. Still one. I still play my PlayStation 2. Love the games on PlayStation 2. Pee-wee's Playhouse. They had toys, didn't they, Joe? I believe they had toys, correct? Brat Styles. My sisters are older, and I don't really know. I vaguely remember them just being like kind of like colorful dolls. The Nintendo Wii, that was a big one. I kind of like turned that where video games became more interactive, where Wii Sports. I remember having that. My wife bought me a Wii for Christmas many years ago, and I played the Zelda game, which I loved, and the Wii Sports. We Wii Bowl. Me and the kids would Wii Bowl for hours. We had so much fun. Wii bowling, Wii boxing, Wii baseball. I spent like 3 hours playing Wii baseball with one of my kids. I remember one time. I think it was my oldest son, Kevin. Um, we just got lost in time and just kept going. We got close to a perfect game. I think like we were like maybe like 298, and we're like, we're gonna get a perfect game. We're gonna keep trying. We kept getting close and falling off. Just saying they have toys. Oh, so Pee Wee did have toys in the 80s. I do remember Pee Wee's Playhouse. I remember all the Pee Wee movies, Pee Wee's Big Adventure. And then Pee Wee went to the movies and got himself in trouble. We don't remember that one. Rob, you never played video games? I'm not exactly sure how old you are, Rob, but video games. So I got into a lot with my grandfather. Fixed pinball machines. He fixed the gaming machines you saw at a lot of bars, cigarette machines back in the day. He was fixing all those things. Like that was pool tables. He did a lot of those kind of. That's what he did. So there could be a pinball machine at any point in time in my grandfather's garage. Okay, so 61. You're about 10 years younger than my parents. Okay. And my dad was really good at pinball. And then like we had I remember we had a Space Invaders game, like the arcade cabinet, the brick blast or whatever, the one where the ball bounced off the bricks, and then you have to keep it up on the move the thing around and try to keep it from falling through. Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, played that for hours at my grandfather's house. So I got a lot of it with him. My dad played pinball a lot, so I was never really that good at pinball. My dad really was good at, because he always had a pinball machine, so he didn't have to use quarters. So he was able to practice more often than the others. So video games aren't for everybody. But I play a lot. I still play. I wish I could play more sometimes when I've had more time. I play some of the newer things. I have a PlayStation. I have more PlayStations in my house than my wife would like to admit. I think between me and my boys, we got like 4 PlayStation 5s alone in my house. I just gave one of my old PlayStation 4s to my father to keep it at his house for when the kids come over. But yeah, my grandfather used to fix pinball machines, and that's how I kind of really got into it. PlayStation 2, as I talked about, Razor scooters, the foldable mini metal scooters. That was a big one. The Bratz dolls, the Nintendo Wii, like I talked about. Apple iPods. That's when it became a big thing. The iPod. Before the iPhone, they were little square, that greenish screen, kind of like the old Game Boys did, with the little dial on it, and you could load it up with so many. You had to download it, had to hook up the computer to download it. And then they, of course, evolved into different ones, and they had the iPod Touch and so on and so forth. And then the Leapfrog learning toys, they were a big one too. And I do kind of remember them from my kids and my younger niece and all that stuff. 2010 to 2019. So they call that the smart, social, and streaming, age. The Xbox 360 with Microsoft throwing their hat in the video game ring. The PlayStation 4, I guess PlayStation 3 got kind of jumped over. Of the ones, I don't think they were the biggest one. The Nintendo Switch, which is one of the most selling video game machines of all time, is the PlayStation or the Nintendo Switch, which is like a meshing of handheld and systems you play on the TV. The Apple iPad. Amazon Echoes and Alexas, Hatchimals, which I really don't know what those are very well, but I'm gonna guess they're like the new age Tamagotchi, if I have to guess. And LOL surprise dolls. I have no clue what they are. My daughter at this point is probably getting close to no dolls. So I don't know what the LOL surprise dolls were. So I don't know that. And then 2020 to 2024. PlayStation 5, the Xbox Series 6, Apple AirPods. So those are the wireless headphones, which I don't get those. Number one, I don't like the earbuds in my ears. I don't like that. Like it hurts after a while. And I'm so afraid they'll fall out. I have here, I'll show you what I use. I like these ones. These are bone conduction. Oops, sorry. Headphones, which are just they go over the back of the ear and they don't sit in the ear. They don't sit inside the ear. They sit on this bone right here. And you get all the audio, and it's good because I can still hear things behind me. I can still hear things around me. I'm like, it's not like, and they don't get sweaty. Like when they have the big, because back in the old studio, if you guys remember from the EOP days, we used to have, the over the head headphones. And oh man, during the show, I used to have a towel. I'd wipe my head down. Then I had to spray the earbuds down or the air headphones down. It was just a sweaty and it was just bulky and hot and unnecessary. But the AirPods, I still never got. I don't like them. I see people lose them all the time, and you just lost a couple $100 worth of just because I had no wire to it. These things are only like $70 or less. You can get them for less. Mine is a little bit more because it has the boom mic on it because I can use it as the audio is good, just not as good as using my mic. But I never got it. The Oculus Quest. So the Oculus is the Facebook's version of the what's it called? Augmented reality or VR. VR. By the way, I knew I was old when I tried that. My boys had it for a while. I tried playing it and I enjoyed it a little bit, but I got very nauseated playing it. Just I couldn't do it. Squishmallows. Some of the toys they have this weird. They're just squishy stuffed animals, very soft and squishy stuffed animals. They call them squishmallows. I know the kids like that. The Ninja Creamy. So that is a Ninja blender, but it's an ice cream maker, which is really cool, by the way, if you're an ice cream fan, because you can make so many cool things with it. And the Stanley Quencher. So the Stanleys, we all know about that. The story behind the Stanleys, I'm not going to get into it. It's pretty crazy, but like pretty much somebody's car burnt down and melt down. And the people who make the Stanleys were just for like outdoorsy people. They weren't like these designer things with all these accessories now and all this stuff. But somebody had it in their car and it burnt down. It had ice water or something, and it was something with ice in it. And they went and found it, and they found it in the car, and they opened up, and there was still ice in it, and they kind of went viral, and then the Stanley revolution began. So that brings you to now, and that is the trend over the years. But they said overall, big picture trends over 42 years. In 1980 1990, physical toys ruled. The action figures, the dolls, the Cabbage Patch, physical toys ruled. In the 2000s, gaming and portable tech was when it's really started exploding. 2010 with the smart devices and the consoles dominated, the video game consoles. In the 2020s, comfort, lifestyle, and premium tech led. That was the breakdown of all that. So that's my non-sports take for the night, and just a little conversational piece, which I'm going to try to add in more shows. I want to hear from you guys. I want to talk to you. If you got any like things you want me to cover, any non-sports related stuff you want to talk to me about, don't hesitate to ask. Hey, yeah, can you talk about this during the show maybe next week? Send me a message online. Send it to the It's a Wrap Sports Network if you want to, or DM me on Twitter or whatever. And if I can, I will. But other than that, guys, it's been a little over an hour tonight. So I enjoyed our time tonight. Go Birds. See if the Phillies do anything. If that stove could even just warm up a little bit, would be nice for the Phillies. Flyers are back in action on, I guess that's Sunday. It'll be returned to action. And I think the Sixers are going on right now. I didn't have my TV on in front of me. So let me just see if there's what the final on that is. Oh, 17 seconds left. Oh, nope, just one final. There it is. I'm sorry, I just updated. 109-102, the 76ers lose to the Chicago Bulls. So they go back in action on Sunday as well at 3:30 against the Thunder. So other than that, guys, I want to thank you for joining me. I will see you guys on Sunday morning. Enjoy the rest of the night and the weekend, and stay safe. If you have to go outside, just be very careful. It's very slippery out there. So other than that, guys, thank you for all you joining me. All those guys who are always here with me. Love you guys. Hope the weekend gets better for you all, and enjoy the rest of the holiday season. I will talk to you later.